Opti TV presents. We have today Martin Borrallo Di Bello out of the Southern Yacht Club in New Orleans. Martin is the head Opti coach there and has been doing some amazing work with those kids. And coming from the South American background, he's here to tell us about a little bit about him, his background, and some thoughts he has on what could be coming next for the Opti class. So my first question, Martin, is how are you doing?
Good, very good. Thank you for having me. And nowadays, working a little bit on the schedule on the fall. It has been busy because we have been having a lot of hurricanes and storms, and so we are being busy evacuating, going back with the boats, back boats. So it was a difficult fall and busy.
Yeah, you guys have had I think a record number of storms, reaching landfall over there on the Gulf Coast. But so far, New Orleans has been pretty lucky. Let's hope that it stays that way for Midwinters. I know we just saw each other at the Fort Lauderdale team race regatta, but I think it's really good that you're here on the show today because oftentimes everybody hears about Argentina and how they do in the Optimist class, but there's a lot of other countries in South America that sail Optimist as well. And as I understand, you actually sailed Optis in Uruguay?
Yes, I did. I started at the age of 9. One day I was in school in third grade, and a teacher came with an invitation or a scholarship to go to a yacht club, a little lake in Montevideo, in the capital city from where I am. And I remember I went back to home and I presented that little paper to my parents, and I started next weekend. And it was really good. I like it, and it was a good experience.
Well, it must have been a good experience because here you are many years later helping shape the next generation in the class. So how did you get involved with coaching after all?
Well, after finishing my career in Optis, I jump in different boats. Back in the days, we didn't have too much options like nowadays. In Uruguay, we had, or rather, lasers or snipes. So in my size, I was too small, so it was difficult. So I just sailed temporary. And going back to your question, I started doing some substitutions when a coach was traveling to important events. I started coaching beginners on a little lake 40 minutes away from the capital city where I live, and that's how I started, little by little.
Yeah, bit by bit. I mean, we coaches always tell the kids, don't think, don't think you're gonna get so far without taking the first few steps. And you've had an amazing career so far. I mean, been coaching such events such as South Americans, and that you yourself have raced in the Opti class. Now you're working at the Southern Yacht Club, but you've actually worked with someone who's been a guest on the show before, Agustin Ferrario. You worked with them up in Nova Scotia. How did you decide to get out of South America and start to travel the world with this coaching thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was in Uruguay, I was studying in my career. I was in university, so I was looking a job a part-time job, and as I said, I started making some substitutions on that yacht club, and while the meantime I was studying, and then I wanted to move to the other level, and I remember a friend of mine was telling me that he was going to the US for a summer, and he had some connections with other yacht club, and he told me, "You want to come?" And yes, so I started. My first summer was almost 10 years ago, and it was very good. While the meantime, it worked back in the days, studying and then doing this to 2 or 3 months working in the US, and that's how I started.
And here you are. Your kids just came from the first. You think it was your first time going to the Lauderdale Team Race Regatta?
Yes, with me as a junior head coach sailing, yes. It was our first event and we love it. It was a good experience for my kids and for me too. And after having no activity for almost 7 months, it was good to see all the sailing community again. So it was really good experience.
Yeah, it was. We were there as well. Which you know, episode 4 coming out soon. But you know, I think it was interesting to that the first kind of event, so to speak, that was happening in South Florida be a team race event because uh, I just feel like team racing is not done as much here as it is in other places in the world. Um, I mean, what what do you think with this situation right now? What do you think is changing? Do you feel like anything is changing with the Opti class? You know, after this whole pandemic thing, I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I can talk by my experience here at Southern. I think after having a stop of 3 or 4 months, in our case, um, the kids and me as a coach, we value how important and how fun and how lucky we were to be out on the water sailing and being with friends and learning. So it was coming back from or restarting the sailing activities. I saw, and it was easy for me because the kids were really focused, really wanted to go get back in the water and learn and be hang out with friends. So it was good, simple, and we're going step by step. Of course, as a coach, I found a balance between practicing and having fun or being focused and interesting in the sport because we didn't have too much regattas, but in our area, none of of races we have. Now, actually, our first race or regatta was for Lauderdale team race a week ago. So it was a challenge and I bet for all the coaches in the area was too.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I think we were all in the same boat, so to speak. You know, 3 to 4 months kind of stopped. We were fortunate enough to start sailing again in the summer. You know, in Miami. But as far as regattas go, that was the second regatta, so to speak, because we all met up. The local clubs in Miami met up for a meet. But as far as an official regatta, that was the first one. So, you know, back to what I was saying though, I feel like it was interesting that it be a team racing event because I just feel like, you know, going along with what you were talking about, I just feel like people are thinking differently. I feel like people are kind of reconnecting, so to speak, with the sport because it's kind of easy sometimes to get lost in the whole like, oh, we got to go to this regatta, we got to go to this regatta, qualifying worlds, and we kind
Yeah.
of sometimes forget, you know, why we even got into this whole thing in the first place. So you know, what to you is why should people sail? Like in your mind, why should people sail? Why should people put their kids in these little boats to get out there and you know and learn to race?
Right. On my personal opinion, I think sailing is an activity, and then like sailing regattas is a sport, right? Then that's what the kids they like. and they wanna do. Um, I think it's a hotbed, the Opti class, and that will give them the resources and the weapons to develop their skills on a long life of sailing. And what I try to explain them that sometimes they feel disappointing and because they're getting to age out or they're getting big or whatever. And I try to explain them that yes, Opti is a very competitive class, and it's like, as I said, a hotbed for the future. But if you keep sailing, you're gonna have a lot of other opportunities, and that helps them to get frustrated at that time. Um, so I don't know what else. What else you were asking me?
No, I just think that, I was just wondering what you thought about, what like why do this, right? Because some like in my opinion, in my experience, right, like a
Yeah,
lot of people seem to focus only on, like the high end, the performance, the results, but again, this is my opinion, just
yeah,
forgetting why do this, right? Because like let's face it, right? Like sailing is hard, right?
it
Sailing
is.
is hard. Like you're talking about getting into this, this thing, right? Going out in crazy conditions sometimes. It could be very exciting, it could be very boring if the wind is light, it could be very
Right.
exciting if the wind is heavy, and there's a million things happening at the same time. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on, why
About the
do it.
sport. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think this sport is very complete because at the age of 9, 10, when they start, they have to take care of their equipment, and with the sail, the boat, the gear. And it's a sport that it's from, I don't know, it's like takes like 6, 7 hours between they arrive to the club and they leave the club. It's not like soccer where you play 90 minutes and that's it, or well, tennis, you have longer matches, or but you only have to carry a racket. These kids, they have to have all their equipment set up. And one of the interesting things that I see of sailing, it's like it's a physic sport, fitness
Yeah,
sport,
yeah, yeah.
but also it's intellectual, because all the time you have to be thinking while the meantime you are sailing and looking the path, the windshield, etc. So that's what I think these kids get really into it and they like it because also it gives you discipline. And it is very good for them to keep learning from a small age.
I definitely agree. I mean, sailing for me personally has the biggest thing I would say that it has taught me is how to manage time and how to kind of think ahead almost like um
Right.
I think that's like the biggest thing that sailing teaches people in general. Obviously, different people learn different things, and aside from obviously all the knowledge that you gain as a racing sailor, but as like a person, I think that's to me that's the most important reason why you would put a kid into the opti class is all these things you learn as like a person, not just a sailor. But
Exactly.
you know, uh speaking on something that you brought up earlier though, like the opti class is kind of, you said, I think you said the hotbed of the future. It's like the what
Yeah.
brings kids into the future. What was that future for you after the opti? Like what I know you got into the snipe a little bit, but as I understand you're getting into catamarans now as well.
Well, yeah, it's funny because, and this is a good story. My I used when I was sailing optis back in the days. My coach was 5 or 6, 7 years older than me, and we shared. We went to wars in South America. Anyway, 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about to buy a catamaran and sail and compete each other. And we bought a F-18 and we started sailing. And I never been in a catamaran before, and I do really like it. I think multi-hulls are very interesting, super fun, super fast. And but it stopped. I stopped, and we stopped sailing because I moved to first to Canada, and then I came here to New Orleans. But that gave me the opportunity to coach here and to learn. In the NACRA 15, we have 2 or 3 boats that they're sailing here in New Orleans, and sometimes I jump in the boat with some Opti sailors, and when we sail.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been interesting, and also learning a lot here in New Orleans. Are very good sailors in multi-hulls, so I was very lucky.
Yeah, I've always liked catamarans. I messed around for a long time on Hobie 16s, but you know, what's the saying that when you coach, you can't sail that much.
Yeah.
But you know, that's part of the job. But yeah, the I think that the what's happening with multi-hulls is pretty interesting. It seems like multi-hulls are kind of growing again in the US. You know, the NACRA 15 class keeps growing. This in Sarasota, there's a pretty sizable fleet now. But what's it like for you guys up there in New Orleans? You know, what's your like? What's your typical regatta circuit? Is it very local, or do you guys travel a lot?
You are saying in Optis or in other classes?
Well, specifically for you guys, since you and your Opti team.
Oh, well, yeah, we tried. We tried. Nowadays, it went out as generation, and I'm restarting with younger kids. So we're starting little by little. Our goal now is the midwinters that we have it in 1 month here at Southern. And I think that it will be for 70% of my fleet the first US ODA event. So I'm trying to make them understand how it works and getting in touch with the US ODA, etc. And then I have the other 25% that they have more experience and they travel. Some of them, they went to international regattas last year, and they qualify also to represent the US this year. Unlucky, they couldn't travel. Um, but yeah, I'm focusing and looking forward for next year to do all the winter Florida regattas as much as we can, and then be prepared for team trials next year in Lakewood.
So what are your expectations for team trials with it being an open event this year? You know, no qualifiers beforehand. It's an open event. I think that, to my knowledge, that's the first time that it's been like that as
Mm-hmm.
far as trials have been in existence. I think. Again, I could be wrong. But I mean, what are your thoughts? What do you expect for that regatta?
I think it's gonna be interesting from my perspective, or from as a coach here. It's gonna give me the opportunity to go with more kids, which that will be great to have the experience of a team trial. Um, and I understand, I mean, to what the US ODA did, because
Right.
it's nowadays difficult to travel, and it's all regional. So I think US ODA made a good call, like specifically for this year. And as I said, it's gonna open and to more kids to practice and put their goal on team trials, which is, I think, is good.
I think it's going to be. I think it could easily be a 1,000 boat regatta.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's gonna be. a huge regatta, and I think it's going to be a very good practice. And as you said, if we have a big fleet, maybe it's one of the biggest events in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the sheer amount of just talk about team trials, like generally speaking, any other year, you know, team trials is the biggest point of conversation. If you go only by that, I feel like there's going to be 1,000 boats showing up in 2021 in Lakewood, Texas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, for obvious reasons, is going to make the event really challenging. But I just can't help but think that if that does happen, the U.S. won't be so scared of having these big events like, you know, the Garden meeting and the Jesus, what's up? The regatta down in Argentina, the semana, la semana.
De Internacional de Mar del Plata.
Yeah, the Mar del Plata. I always know it as the Mar del Plata Regatta, but that week-long event is huge down in Argentina. But when you look at the United States, yeah, US ODA regattas are really big, but we don't have one of our own. Like I think the closest thing is like Orange Bowl, right?
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yes, I think so.
So, you know, what's next in store now that you're back on the water and you're sailing and you're going to regattas? What's next in store for the Sailing Yacht Club Opti team?
What is store? Sorry.
Oh, what's next? What are you planning?
Oh, okay. Well, I try. We were gonna do Midwinters, and then some of the other kids they're gonna go to Orange Bowl and Lauderdale Bowl, and then we're gonna focus on the Winter Florida Valentine and the team race event. We were trying also after for Lauderdale team race. I'm trying to maybe do a weekend here of team race with the local states, and so we get to practice because we are in the Gulf Coast and it's difficult to gather teams.
Right.
So that's my goal for the winter, and then looking forward for Midwinters. For sorry for team trials.
Yeah. You know, going back to Midwinters here for a second, you know, there's part of the reason that, you know, I started this whole Opti TV thing is to, you know, expose people, show people what's out there in the Opti class. So can you talk a little bit about Midwinters and why it's important to put on your calendar if you're an Opti team?
Yeah, good question. I think Midwinters, first of all, every 2 years is a sprinting qualifier. In this case, in this year, it's not going to be a sprinting qualifier.
Right.
But I think it's going to be over 110 boats so far, and it's going to be a good competition. And it's going to be also, I think, the last US ODA of the year, which is, you know, a bit in terms of big fleet. So I think they should come and enjoy, and it's open too. We don't have any caps, restrictions. And also always to come to New Orleans in Thanksgiving is a nice spot.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are looking forward to have this event. Also, we are working on logistics organization to make sure everything is all set up for the event and have a good time.
So I've been to that event, I think, I want to say like 6 or 7 times now. I've sailed in New Orleans many more times than that, but the lake, right? For the viewers that are looking at this right now, trying to get information about Midwinters and the lake, I haven't yet found it, but what's the secret to Lake Pontchartrain in terms of the conditions?
Well, Lake Pontchartrain, it reminds me to Montevideo where I sail because it's ratchet, the water, and I think we have all the conditions. I mean, when it's blowing from the north, it's windy. We have big chop. The water, it's shallow, so we have big waves, and then you can have a south coming from the shore, the wind, which is flat water, shifty, and the kids have the opportunity to work on their strategy.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and then we have summer that is super light wind, and they can practice on and develop their skills in light wind. And then coming to the spring and also in the fall, we have very decent breeze, mid 12 to 15 knots. So I think it's a very good venue to come. We don't have current, so that's 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 an advantage. And yeah, I think it's a very complete venue to sail.
That sounds good. I mean, I remember being there in, I think, 2015 for the US Sailing National Symposium, and we were sailing these things called Zim 15s, and the waves were so high and the period so short that my bow was in the back of a wave in the front, and my stern was on the front of a wave, and it was crazy.
Yeah,
But it was a lot of fun. So if anyone you're looking at right now, it's definitely worth the trip. So think about it.
yeah.
Um, so let's change subjects here because I think you're kind of sort of a new face to the Opti circuit here in the United States. So what does Martine do for fun? What do you do outside of this whole coaching thing?
Oh, well, I try to be busy. I I do a lot of sport. I mean, I like going to the gym. I just came from jiu-jitsu, and then when I have time, I play tennis. Also, it was difficult for me in the quarantine because I'm an active guy. But I tried to do my best, and I took courses of sailing courses of South America. And then, since I like the fitness part, I did courses. So when I was coming back, I was more prepared and more wiser.
So I think that's really important. I think leading by example is great. If you're an active person, and you got a group of kids that you're working with, they're more likely to follow your lead or listen to you, right? When you talk about these things with them, the importance of the off the water training, right? But what do you think is most important, right? For your off the water training, you're a really active guy, like you just said, and you like to maintain that kind of lifestyle. So for you, what is most important to do off the water if you're training to be, a competitive sailor?
Well, you're saying in terms of being achieve goals and be a better sailor.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I have four pillars. One is the fitness, and then the psychologic part is important. Sport, psychologic. Actually, in back in Uruguay, when I was coaching international IODA events, I always work with a sport psychologist with my kids, and that was something new, and they do really like it, and it was important, the mental part. And then yeah, focus on the strategy and tactics, and of course technique and boat handling. But I give more important of that two pillars, the first two pillars of fitness, to be well prepared and good shape, and the psychological part.
That makes sense to me. I think sailing is it's gonna be hard for some people to believe this unless they themselves race. Is that sailing is actually more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport. And I feel like unless you're prepared for that, you won't be able to make it as far as you want to, because, I always like to say that if you want to get to the middle of the pack, you have to be fast. If you want to get to the top, top 25, you have to be fast and smart. But to get to the front, you have to be fast, smart, and brave. You can't win unless you're willing to take risks, and also you're able to manage, your expectations that you're setting for yourself. Which is kind of counterintuitive. I feel like maybe that goes against each other, but it makes sense to me. So I think that Southern Yacht Club is a really unique place. I think New Orleans is a really unique place, because you're kind of able to reach both sides of the kind of fleet in the United States. So do you have any plans on attending anything out west? Any regattas, trying to train in the Pacific or anything like that?
So far, we are focused more on the East Coast, but yeah, the last time we went there, it was last team trials in 2019 in LA, which is good. But nowadays, and things are going slowly open. It's difficult to travel and to go far away, so we prefer to do the locals and more closer on the East Coast. But yeah, we will love it to do it in the future.
You've been to Worlds 3 times. What was that experience like?
It was really good. It was an honor to represent my country 3 times in Worlds, but the process was hard. I remember usually Worlds are in our winter, so it was long weeks on winter time and very cold and training, and also I was lucky because we have in different countries different conditions. I remember the last Worlds was super light. We did only 5 or 6 races. It was tough, um, but it was an honor, and also with responsibility. The responsibility to representing your country, and it was an amazing experience. It's something that I don't talk too much, but it was a good achievement for me.
Yeah, I would say so. You went 3 times, and every time you got better and better results. Ending in 2001, you got 18th overall. So it's I think, I'm not sure, but I think sailing is your thing.
Yeah, definitely. And also, sailing is my thing, and I like teaching to younger kids. I think that's what I like.
Well, if we didn't have people, like you, the sailing would disappear. You have to pass it on somehow. So, to any kid that's, listening in on this, it is important and it is rewarding to give back to the sport, because what you learn can lead the way for other kids in the future. So I think we're coming up. Yeah, I think our time's coming up. But before we go, is there anything you want to say to our viewership?
Well, thank you very much for the time, and looking forward to see you all the sailing community, the US ODA, in the next events. I think things are getting better, so we're gonna get back in track on the 2021.
Let's hope so. Martin, thank you for your time. Thanks for being on the show, and hopefully I'll see you in Midwinters.
Thank you. Thank you.